people with real jobs.
Hello?
Self-employed people. Which do you want to be? This is Certifiably Unemployable. It's time to fire the boss and become self-employed. Maybe you need a push to get that business or side gig going that you've been dreaming about for years. And if you're an entrepreneur, you can listen to stories and get experience from people who've done it. Get ready to change your life. Broadcasting from the compound, this is Certifiably Unemployable, and this is Sean Dean.
Welcome to Certifiably Unemployable. I'm your host, Sean Dean, and thank you for being a part of this week's show. Don't forget to connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, as well as YouTube. And you can find us on many of the podcast platforms, including iTunes, Spotify, Google, and Anchor. So are you ready to fire your boss? Maybe you've been wanting to start that home-based business or become self-employed to truly build something for you and your family. Well, you've come to the right place with Certifiably Unemployable. And this week, I'm super excited about this because I personally feel that this particular guest, this particular topic is going to be one of those topics that's going to resonate with a lot of people out there. Maybe you've been struggling with fear, with that push to take the next step, because anytime we make a change as a human being, it's difficult, right? And so I think over the coming episodes with Certifiably Unemployable, you'll find that one of the common denominators we have as human beings and as fellow entrepreneurs is we all have that moment of fear. I believe that if you don't have fear in your belly, that there's something not right. So it's completely normal. And this week's topic, we're going to talk a lot about fear. The topic is called From Stability to Freedom. That's this week's show, and our guest actually is someone who I've connected with over the last few years, and actually is from the area that I live in, born and raised, Flagler County. He actually has been in multiple different types of work environments, from restaurants to owning his own lawn business to car sales to something very stable and working for the government. I know when we say government, we say stable. You probably chuckled. So I'm going to go and introduce our guest for this week, Otis Gilyard out of Palm Coast, Florida. And Otis Gilyard, welcome to the show. Welcome to Certifiably Unemployable. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, Sean, good afternoon. And man, I'm just so excited to be here today to get a phone call message from your studio requesting my presence on today's show. Just really resonated in a big way. You know, anytime I can be on a show with a gentleman who has really paved the way, unemployed for, 2 decades at this point, it just means a lot. And it's very humbling that you would have invited me to your show. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I am super excited to have you. And so, as I mentioned in the intro, I think your story is going to resonate with a lot of people. And one of the things that I think, Otis, is a lot of people, they just don't know where to start. They don't know what to do. Maybe they're in that corporate 9-to-5 job and they've been there for years and that's all they know. And, from hearing your story multiple times, I believe that your story is going to resonate. So, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us, kind of where you started. I know you were born in Flagler County, born and raised, been here your whole life. So, so maybe, get us rolling where your story started.
So as Sean alluded to, from the Flagler County, Florida area, I've been here my entire life. I've had an opportunity to go out and venture the country and do some different things. But for whatever reason, I always ended up back home. And this is where I perform best. I've lived in several different counties in the state of Florida, primarily in the very close circle of Flagler County. But with all that being said, I've had an opportunity to really get out into the community and meet people at different levels during different seasons of my life. And, depending on what I was doing at said time, allowed me to do some really unique things and be part of people's lives in different categories, different strengths, I should say.
Well, I know from talking to you, you owned your own lawn business for a while. You sold cars. You worked in the restaurant business. Are there any other industries that you're in outside of, the main career that that we're about to talk about?
I spent quite a bit of time in the people business in various different categories. The latest of people business that I participated in at the government level, I used to call myself the garbage man, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, I'm sure, a little bit later in the show. But really, just a people person, just a people guy.
So what career did you decide to go into when we use the terminology stability, and also we allude to government? What career did you choose, and why did you choose that particular career?
As I matured in the workplace, I realized that there was a great deal missing from my resume, from my position and I started to really do some soul searching to try to figure out that career, that place that I needed to be so that I could be the most value to the place that we live. And as I sat back, I recalled a cousin of mine who continued to come to me time after time. And he would always say, "Cuz, you need to get into law enforcement. You are the law enforcement guy. That's where you want to be. That's where you need to be." And I always just kind of in one ear, out the next, because I never thought I, would enjoy doing such a job. Very tedious. And the more I did that, I was more fit for that job than I ever gave myself any credit to be. And as I started to really understand the law enforcement game when I got started, it was really a very large family with a lot of people that cared about each other, that took care of a lot of other people in some of the most traumatic times of their lives. And so I said to myself, wait a minute, all these years have passed and I never got involved because I didn't think I had the fit. When all in all, I had the fit from the beginning. So
it sounds warm and fuzzy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And when I got started in law enforcement, it was Y2K, year 2000. And I went in with the idea that I was going to change the world one person at a time by being a positive role model at the extent of a traumatic situation. And, as I got going and I got to really understand how it worked and really what happened behind the scenes, how to process certain things and how to do certain things in that field, the more I realized it was a very large family and people legitimately care about each other. And, as time progressed, a lot of what I remember in the very beginning started to shift really quickly, Sean.
What way did it shift?
Started to shift really quickly. You went from more of that family environment where people were on the job, because I'll tell you, the pay wasn't there. If you were on the job for the pay, you signed up for the wrong career.
Yeah,
the pay was never there.
Yeah.
But the thought of having a brother in another country, Sean, the thought of having a brother in another state that you've never met, not a blood brother, but a brother that does what you do every day, that understands what you do in another location. And when you go to that other location and you stop in to say hi, or you stop in to just introduce yourself with some of these other municipalities and police departments, sheriff offices and things of that nature, and they shake your hand and they call you brother, that was huge.
Yeah.
That was huge.
Absolutely.
And the camaraderie and the fellowship that came along with that was just tremendous. It really meant a lot. And as time progressed and things started to kind of get shooken in the community, a lot of that brotherhood mentality also started to shift. As it started to shift, politics started to come in, and the brotherhood just really started to break down. The camaraderie suddenly was stunned. It was paused. And, it turned into really not what I signed up for.
So you started law enforcement in 2000, right? And you, how long were you in law enforcement? How long were you working for the man before it started to shake up for you? When you started to notice it anyway?
One thing I learned more about myself as a lawman than I did with any other career choice that I had was I really learned that I had a very unique ability to get along with everyone. And it was as strange as it sounds, as I was transacting or dealing with perfect criminals, I was also being thanked by those criminals for the actions that I took against them as a lawman. And I realized quickly that, that job took care of my financial responsibilities. But that job enabled me to build a lot of really unique relationships abroad. And beyond the job, I was able to really connect with a lot of people that naturally I wouldn't have had an opportunity to connect with if it wasn't for that transportation. And, I'll tell you, meeting presidents, meeting vice presidents, participating in motorcade escorts, going all over the country doing various law enforcement activities enabled me to really build some relationships with people that I wouldn't have been able to text or call had I have not had that connection in that position. So, it really opened me up to marketing, just networking. And so the job of law enforcement took care of my financial responsibilities. Networking is what created lifelong relationships beyond reach of what I ever would have imagined.
Okay. So when things started to shake up and you started to notice that, I mean, what was your first reaction? I mean, what was your first thought process that you're just gonna grin and bear it and just keep going? Because I know a lot of people do that in corporate America every single day. What were you going through in your mind?
So I had a lot of challenges, Sean. I got into this career with the mentality that I was going to be there, stay there, and I had no future plans outside of there. That was the coverall, the place that I hang my hat, and that was where I was going to be until something happened with retirement, period. And, as I got into the phase that we're referring to where things started to shake up and things started to kind of shift, you got officers being killed, you got retaliations against police departments, you've got communities coming against the entire governmental affairs. It really created a lot of issues for me, both mentally, physically, emotionally. And, the biggest hiccup was the breakdown in the political game and what it did to the brotherhood amongst the guys and the girls that were part of our community. I mean, that really changed everything. And when that happened, or when that really got very large, it kind of caused me to pause and really think, like, is this what I signed up for? Is this where I expected to be in this year, this time, this frame? Is this what I thought law enforcement was going to come to? And the answer to that last question was no. I never expected it to come to that. I never planned for it to come to that. And honestly, I was very nervous because I was stable. I was the senior deputy at that time. I was on the motorcade. I had, really achieved some amazing things on the job. But at the same time, I had kind of plateaued in that position, Sean. I kind of had peaked and I wasn't going to grow any more in that position, in that space, unless I made some significant changes.
Right.
And, you know, most people would say, well, those changes, why don't you go to be supervisor? Why don't you go to be detective? Why don't you go to be K-9 handler? Why don't you go and, you know, run for sheriff or do something like that? Truth be told, I wasn't interested in any of that. You know, I wasn't interested in that. And while all of this was going on the front end, that networking thing that I was telling you about was really getting a little out of hand, Sean. You know, people were just amazing. You know, they would communicate with me about lots of different opportunities and lots of different things. And, you know, I would take it with a grain of salt in most cases, because I was building relationships at that time. And I can tell you, when the shake really got thick, it forced me to start seeing and thinking very, very differently. And it was then that I basically had to come to a position, come to a decision, and it wasn't easy. You know, the decision was basically, do I stay and milk out whatever is going to come of this thing for the next 15 or so years? Or do I walk away from this $65,000 a year gig on the job with great benefits? Do I walk away from being the senior deputy? Do I walk away from the best schedule in the entire sheriff's office? Do I walk away from vacation leave and our retirement plan? Do I walk away from all of that? Or do I stay and just deal with the grit that I just talked about?
Yeah. So, you know, that brings up a lot of stuff because what you're saying, it just, there's so many layers to what you're talking about. Number one, you started with the whole anticipation of no plan on the other side other than retirement. So, you know, so let's talk about that for a minute. So when you do that, you're thinking, well, I'm probably not going to retire till I'm in my 60s, right? Because that's what we're all trained and that's what we're all told to do. You know, you got to work 40 plus years before you can retire in the age, you know, 60, and then live your life from there. Now, or in your 60s, I should say. So you went from that point, which then it started to shake up. So now there's an opportunity for you. You're like, this isn't what I really wanted it to be. How can this be long-term? Because you've got all these politics that are getting in the way. This brotherhood is no longer what I anticipated it was going to be. And now I'm at a crossroad where I choose happiness or I choose to pay my bills, you know, and that I think is a very common struggle that I think a lot of people are having, and the reason why this topic is so important. So, you know, you have to ask yourself, what is the cost for happiness? Do you want to continue to make that $65,000 a year, which really, you know, is okay money, but it's not great money, you know, and be unhappy? Yeah, you're going through the motions and you're paying your bills, but were you happy? You probably weren't, based on what you said, right?
Right. You know, so let me just respond to some of that, Sean, because, you know, just you kind of going through that again, just really, I want to make sure that I'm really clear about this, because it was a big deal. It was a lot happening very quickly. And when I came to that position in my career, in my mindset, there were some significant things that happened right at that same exact time. And it was very strange. So the relationships that I had been referring to during this conversation, a couple of people that were very near and dear to me, they were lawmen. One of them was around 37 years of law enforcement. He retired. Another one of them had retired, and then he went back to do another law enforcement gig. Okay. So one 37 years in, he retired. The other one had done a full tour, retired, and then went back to work. And here's what happened. The one that retired and went back to work got hit by a drunk driver while he was working a traffic detail, killed instantly.
Wow.
Okay? Killed instantly. He left behind his wife and his 2 kids. Another one that did 37 years, he retired. Within his first 3 months of retirement, he got shingles, a real bad case of shingles. They thought it was shingles. Turns out it was cancer. Okay? So within 5 months of his retirement of 37 years, okay, he worked his entire life. And within 5 months, he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and died 6 months after retired.
Wow.
37 years, Sean. Okay? Those 2 very significant things happened to very close friends of mine. Very close friends of mine as this process is going on in my head. Okay? So as I'm processing these 2 close friends of mine passing, I'm also processing the time that I've not had to spend with my child. And I'll tell you, at that time, I had not spent one holiday uninterrupted with my child in her entire life. Not one uninterrupted holiday in her entire life. And what I mean by that is every holiday for her entire life, I was working. So I had to answer calls for service every single holiday. And I will tell you, there's no happiness with that. There's none.
No.
There's no happiness to know that guys who gave their everything to this career never really got a chance to retire. So they were in to retire initially, and they died on the job or died from the job. And as I'm processing that and I'm processing the shift, I'm thinking, I'm at a plateau. And I didn't know what to do, Sean. I had these two things happen. And so I said, you know, I'm a Christian. I'm a very faith-driven kind of guy. And I said to God, I said, I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do what I want to do. I don't even know what I want to do and how to get to what I want to do, but I want to be happy. And I said, I need some signs. I need to know that what I'm thinking is normal, and I need to know that what I'm thinking is real. But bigger than that, I need to know that I can handle it if I decide to unplug from the matrix and fire my boss. I need to know what that means. And three very significant things happened. And I'm telling you, just sitting here communicating them with you, this is the first time I'm going live with what I'm about to share with you. But these three things happened very significantly in a time frame that really was mind-boggling. So one day I'm on my police motorcycle and I'm traveling on the highway. There's this Cadillac that gets behind me. This Cadillac SUV, and she's honking her horn and flashing her headlights at me in my rearview mirror. And I'm thinking, okay, why is this lady doing this? So I pull up and I pull onto the shoulder of the road. This car pulls in behind me. I'm thinking, all right, we got an emergency going on, and you know something's going on. And this little very petite lady exits the vehicle, and she walks up to me and she says, "Deputy, I have a message for you." She said, I hope you don't think this is weird, or I hope you don't think, something is wrong with me. But I was told to stop you today and tell you that what you're thinking is perfectly normal and is very prosperous on the other side.
Wow.
This lady, never met her in my life, ever. She pulls me over as a civilian. I'm on my police bike. And she tells me that, Sean. And she then says, what you're thinking is right. It's very prosperous on the other side. And she said, can I give you a hug? And I said, sure. At this point, I got nothing to lose. Gave her a hug. She got in her truck and she left. Sean, I had never in my life experienced anything like that. In fact, it was really kind of creepy.
Have you ever seen her again since then?
Have not seen her again.
Wow.
I have not seen her again. And so I got finished up with that conversation with her. And one, I was totally messed up. My grandmother once said, grandson, be careful what you ask for when you talk to our God. Be careful what you ask for, because he will deliver. And that was the first message that I believe was sent to me. And so if that wasn't strange enough, about a week after that, I went over to run radar in this neighborhood in the lower R section. This street is very quiet. I used to always get a lot of complaints that people speed through there. It was a quiet street, cul-de-sac, not a lot of traffic. And so I used to always kind of put that one off to the back burner. And this one day, I got a bunch of complaints. So I decided, all right, forget it. I'll go and sit down there. Now, it was raining. And a good cop, Sean, doesn't get hungry and does not get wet. So this was against everything in the good cop book for me to go and sit on this quiet cul-de-sac street on a rainy day and run radar. It was completely out of the book.
Right.
So I pulled up over there and I pulled off on this shoulder that was kind of adjacent to the cul-de-sac. And I just wanted to see this one car that was causing all this havoc down there. And as I'm sitting at this spot on this cul-de-sac, a guy comes out from his house and he brings me breakfast. He cooked me an egg sandwich and bought me a fresh cup of orange juice. Now, naturally, you don't eat something from perfect strangers, especially when you're in uniform. That's also in the good book, Sean, because people will try to hurt you, okay?
You were breaking the rules, man.
Yeah, I was breaking all the rules.
Yeah.
So as I'm sitting there, I am kind of enjoying the situation. It's raining, and suddenly I hear this knock on my passenger window. And so I look up quickly and I look to the right, and there's a bird, a red bird, sitting on my windowsill. And he's just staring at me. And so I let the window down, and he just stands there, and he looks at me, and he starts whistling, and then he starts doing this little dance, and then he goes off into the bush. Messed me up. I didn't even know what was going on.
Wow.
And a few minutes later, he came back, and he did the same exact thing. But this time he didn't knock on the glass because I had the glass open. And so I didn't know what that meant, but it was the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. He was dancing, singing, and he went off in the bush, came back, did it again, left. I never saw the bird again. So I researched that. And if you research the same thing I shared with you, there's a significance to a red bird dancing. Okay? There's a significance to it. So that was the second phase. And I encourage each of you to go and look what that means. Look it up. Okay? So then, Sean, I mentioned to you I had a young daughter at that time. And my daughter had never heard me speak to my wife about the possibility of changing career paths. She had never heard me talking about, not really knowing how to move forward with my current career and everything that way. And one morning, it was a Saturday morning, and Sean, this was a week after the bird situation to the day. Okay.
Now, how long ago after the lady that flagged you down in the Escalade did the bird visit you?
So these were all 1 week apart, Sean. That's the other significance to this. Okay. These were all 1 week apart. And so Saturday morning, I woke up early because I just could not sleep. It was probably 5 o'clock in the morning, and people that know me know that I'm an early riser, but 5 a.m. is typically not the time that I'm going to get up. Okay. 5 a.m. is a little early, but this morning I could not sleep. So I got out of bed because I'm rolling, I'm scrambling, and I'm obviously waking my wife up. I get up, I get out of bed, and I go into the living room and I sit down and I just kind of put the TV on quietly and I relax. And suddenly, mind you, it's 5 a.m. on a Saturday. I got this young daughter. She comes out of her bedroom it was about 6 a.m. when she came out of her bedroom. And she said, "Dad, I haven't been able to sleep." She said, "I'm just up this morning. I just can't sleep." And she said, "So since I've been up since about 5, I wrote you this letter." And, man, I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's all right. Because
Sean,
I know there's people out there listening that need to hear this, so we appreciate you.
Sean, she said, "Dad, take this envelope. I've been up since 5 and I made you this letter." And I opened this letter up, and in the letter it says, "Dad, you're my hero." And she said, "You're good at everything." And she said, "You know what? I worry about you every day when you put on that uniform and you go fight the bad people. Because if something happened to you, Dad, I don't know what I would ever do with myself." She said, "Have you ever thought of doing something else, Dad? Because I know you will be really good at something else." And Sean, I will tell you, I have that letter. I saved it. And I look at that letter often. And I will tell you, that was number 3, 1 week apart from the other 2. I didn't need to hear any more from anywhere else.
Third time's a charm.
Anything else.
Right.
I had it. I got the message. And so the next week, I went into my office and I submitted a 30-day retirement letter. And I told them, "Guys, I was here for life. I'm exiting at 16. And a month after that, February 29th, 2016, I retired. And Sean, I will tell you, since that day, it has been blessings beyond comprehension. I've got a relationship with my kid now that I did not have before.
Mm-hmm.
I've got time freedom. I do with time what I choose. There's a song out there that says, "People are afraid to live, but people are afraid to die."
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you, that statement and that song is so true, because for so many years, I was so afraid to live that I was dead.
Yeah,
and didn't even know it.
Yeah, I was going to say you don't realize it. One of my favorite all-time movies is Shawshank Redemption, and Morgan Freeman says, actually Andy Dufresne, who's played, can't think of the actor's name, but he says, get busy living or get busy dying. And that's it. That's
incredible.
That's what it's all about. So what a story, man. So what, obviously, you know, the emotion, all the signs, you're unhappy. You had many things that were just hitting you in the face of, you know, I need to do something else. And obviously we know with your daughter, what was the straw that broke the camel's back. But what can you advise people that are listening to this, whether it be, you know, today, 6 months from now, 2 years from now? I know this is a relevant topic. What can you advise them to, you know, how do they know it's the right thing? I mean, because you know that they're sitting there thinking the same thing. I'm comfortable with this. I've been with this company for years. This is all I know. I don't know what the next thing is, because you had no idea what you were going to do, did you?
No.
See, yeah. And so I'm sure you were scared. I'm sure there was fear.
Yes. And tell you the truth, not only did I not know exactly what I was going to do, but one thing I did know was I wasn't going to fail myself, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't going to fail myself. And, you know, the ability to build the network of people that I had built along the way within my law enforcement career carries very heavy with me. And, you know, it truly has been a blessing. You know, I will tell you, it wasn't easy. You know, there were some days after I retired where I said, man, what in the world did I just do? Did I just make the biggest mistake of my life? What did I just do? You know, and I would question myself, and you know, I'll tell you on the other side as well, probably within 60 days of retiring, you know, I fell into a little bit of a depression slope, Sean.
Yeah.
And the reason is I got so accustomed to every day getting up, running into the same guys, doing the same thing on the motorcade, escorts, seeing my brothers all the time, to not seeing them at all. And very, very rarely even hearing from them. And guys, I will tell you, that really ate away at me and caused me to go into a little bit of a depression. But all along, things were percolating so positively at the same time. So it was almost a balance. But I'll tell you, you know, the other thing that I wanted to say in that whole segment was right around the same exact time, Steve Harvey. I love that guy. But he put on a show specifically, in fact, very similar to the show that we've got going right now, Sean. But his show encouraged people to not wait, to just jump. And I encourage you, if you can just get on YouTube or go somewhere and find that segment, that show that Steve Harvey did that says, just jump. I'm telling you, it is going to give you a motivation that I don't think you can even process you have within you.
Yeah, I remember watching it. Yeah, I remember watching it. It's powerful.
Every successful person in this world has jumped. I'm going to tell you what I mean by that. You are going to have to jump. You cannot just exist in this life. You have got to try to live. If you are waking up thinking that there's got to be more to your life than it is, man, believe that it is. But to get to that life, you're going to have to jump. Now, I'll tell you why I call it jumping. See, God, when he created all of us, he gave every last one of us a gift at birth. He never created a soul without endowing them with a gift. You just gotta quit looking at them with a gift. You just gotta quit looking at gifts as run and jump and sing and dance. It's more than that. It's if you know how to network, if you can connect dots, if you draw, if you teach. Some of y'all fry chicken better than anybody else, bake pie. Some of you cut hair, color hair. Some people do grass. I got a partner, man, never wanted to go out with us because we stayed out too late. Come on, man, go out with, now I gotta get up early, Mom, cutting Miss Johnson grass. We kept laughing at this dude, cutting grass, how much they pay you? He got a landscaping company in Cleveland worth $4 million. Because all he do is cut grass, but he was gifted at it. I got a partner on a detail shop, make $800,000 a year detailing cars. He got 6 mobile trucks running around, $800,000 a year. All he do is detail cars. That's his gift, that's what he loved to do. You've got to identify that gift. Now listen to me. When you see people in life, when you're standing on the cliff of life and you see people soaring by, you hear about them doing wonderful things. Maybe you look up the street and your neighbor just gets a car every year, every 2 years. You know, how is he doing that? Have you ever thought, maybe this person right here has identified their gift and is living in their gift? Because your Bible says, your Bible says your gift will make room for you. Your gift, not your education. You go get an education, that's nice. But if you don't use your gift, that education only gonna take you so far. I know a lot of people got degrees, man, they ain't even using it. It's your gift. But the only way for you to soar is you got to jump. You got to take that gift that's packed away on your back. You got to jump off that cliff and pull that cord. That gift opens up and provides the soar. If you don't ever use it, you're gonna just go to work. And if you're getting up going to work on a job every day that you hate going to, that ain't living, man. You just existed. At one point in time, you ought to see what living's like. But the only way to see what living like, you gotta jump. And here's the problem. I'm gonna just be real with you. When you first jump, let me tell you something, your parachute will not open right away. You're gonna hit them rocks. You're gonna get some skin tore off on them cliffs. You're gonna get all your clothes tore off. You're gonna get some cuts on you. You're gonna be bleeding pretty bad. But eventually, the parachute has to open. That is a promise of God. That ain't a theory, that's a promise. His promises is true, because listen to me. You cannot name one single thing God has not gotten you through. Name it. And if he ain't got you through it, he currently pulling you through it right now. And the living proof of it is you sitting in here. If he hadn't got you through it, you wouldn't even be here. So if he ain't never not got you through it, why would he not let your parachute open? It has to open, man. You can play it safe and deal without the cuts and the tears. And you can stand on that cliff of life forever safe. But if you don't jump, I got another promise I can make you. Your parachute will never open. You'll never know. You'll never know what God really has for you. See, your God has a wonderful life for you. Once again, I'm gonna refer to your Bible. Now, you go down there, you memorize these scriptures, you don't apply them to yourself. Your Bible says that he comes to give you life and give you life more abundantly. If I were you, I would jump. Because that's the only way to get to that abundant life. You got to jump, man. You got to take a chance. Now, when I get through talking, there are those of you who discuss this in the car. Well, I got bills, and I got bills. Whether you stay on the cliff or you jump, you're gonna have bills. Well, if I quit my job, I'm gonna ruin my credit. If you got a job, you living check to check. Even if you got A1 credit, you can't buy nothing else no damn way. At one point in time, man, do yourself a favor. Go see what God really do. God hold you up, man. He ain't gonna let you fall. He ain't bring you this far, let you fall. Do yourself a favor, man. Before you leave this world, before you die, jump. Just jump one time. Just jump. Thank you very much.
So a couple of things I wanted to bring up real quick, Otis, so in your transition, that 30 days, I would imagine you went with some of those relationships that you had been building. Maybe you had, did you have any side hustles going on? Did you do anything on the side? Did you have any other income coming in outside of the law enforcement that at least helped make that decision?
So when building some of the networks, when I say with people and communicating and talking and, building a network of net worth, just through the years when I was on the job, trying to understand really the power of networking. As I mentioned, there was several opportunities that were passed my way, several things that I started to actually look at carefully and participate in and grow further relationships in and really involve myself in. And so, yes, outside of the law enforcement process, there was some things that were definitely festering. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you're able to take those relationships you'd built over the years, and obviously being from the area, knowing pretty much everybody, that helped. So now you've been retired 4+ years. What's going on now in your life? What are you doing now? How is your life different? Was that law enforcement decision that of retiring from law enforcement, from that stability, from that every week or every other week paycheck, knowing it's there, all you got to do is show up, where are you at now?
Well, Sean, I'll tell you now, a lot of things have changed. Not only do I have a relationship with my kids, okay, but we do what we want when we get ready, Sean. Right now we're in the mix of renovating what we call a compound. It's one of the largest homes. In fact, it is the largest home that we've ever lived in. It's on the canal. We've gotten a very large boat, so we're able to tour various parts of the state and beyond very comfortably. We have been able to help a lot of people accomplish some of their similar goals and some of the things that they have wanted to do, but they've held out because of not really knowing or really not knowing how to engage in living. So things have really gotten good, Sean. And I can tell you that $65,000 a year hasn't happened not one time since I retired. It's actually been a lot better than that.
That's good. That's good. That's good to hear. Well, I know just from knowing you and some of the other parts of this, I wanted to remain on topic because there's so many things that we could talk about. But, I know that you've went on and got some other certifications and things where there's some advice that you can give to folks, and we can do that in future episodes. But one of the things that I wanted you to talk about is what kind of advice can you give to those people that maybe are sitting on the fence, they're not sure what to do, they're tired of waking up on Monday morning, banging their head up against the wall and having to drive to work, go to work, even with what's going on in today's world, even having to log in online and do Zoom calls and work for somebody else. They're tired of doing that. What kind of advice can you give to them right now?
So I'm going to move a little closer to my camera because I want to be real clear. If you're listening to this and you're watching this right now, the strongest piece of advice that I can give to you is you already know what to do. You just need to take action. That's the best piece of advice I can give to you because inside, you know exactly what you need to do. You know you're not happy. You know that's never going to change unless you make the change. You have the power to do it. you already know what to do. Just do it. You know, you're sitting there to milk it out to retirement. Retirement's not guaranteed. I can tell you story after story of friends that I've lost in the law enforcement game that never made it to retirement. They were hanging on to retire. And I can tell you about friends that retired to just go and get another job because retirement wasn't enough to cover their financial responsibilities. If you're holding out to retire just because you don't know what to do, you're making a big mistake. It's like staying in a marriage for the kids. It's a big mistake. It's a big mistake.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that advice because, you know, whether you pray, whether you do what you have to do just to dig down deep inside to find that inner peace and what you need to do to become happy, you need to do it because, you know, you talked about brotherhood and everything else on the law enforcement. Well, being an entrepreneur, there's a huge network of entrepreneurs, including the network that we're starting to build here with Certifiably Unemployable. You know, we've got your back. And is it going to be easy all the time? No, it's not. But is your job easy? Was working in law enforcement for Otis easy? It was not. The difference is when you work harder, when you're self-employed, you're doing it for yourself and for your family. Otis, I appreciate your guidance today. I appreciate your knowledge, and I appreciate you speaking from the heart. Your story, I hope, touches many people. I believe it will. But even if we can only just change one person's outlook on what they need to do moving forward, I think it's worth it. So I appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Sean, for having me here. I certainly appreciate it. It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Well, everybody, we appreciate you being a part of this week's episode of Certifiably Unemployable. So just stop saying you can't do it. Believe in yourself. Push forward. And I'm telling you, faith, belief, and just getting rid of that fear will make a huge, huge difference in you become self-employed and becoming certifiably unemployable. Until next time.
You've been listening to Certifiably Unemployable. Ready to fire the boss yet? You're on your way. Sean has been self-employed for over 20 years. So if that's something that you want to do, something you've been dreaming about for years, Sean has all the knowledge, good, bad, and indifferent. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from this show. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on Facebook and Instagram at Certifiably Unemployable. Find us on YouTube and at www.certifiablyunemployable.com. Till next time, this is Certifiably Unemployable, signing off.